In this video I will show and tell you more about a specific Singer and how to operate it. Meet the star of this episode, the Singer 191. There are a couple variations of the 191, but all are more or less the same. The letter indicates where the machine was built. Being a B, it is a French 191. There is one exception, the 191D Delta, which is an industrial machine not related to this family of 191s. The machines were built roughly between 1957 and 1962. The 191 has an oscillating system similar to the Class 15. It uses the same needles as the Class 15, the 15x1, also known as the 2020 or the 130/705H. The needle sits with the flat side facing left, and the thread goes from the inside right to the left. Note, when you have a 191K or the 191U, the flat side of the needle should face right, and the thread goes through the needle from the left to right. But more on that later. The right bobbin is a different story. According to the parts manual, the domestic 191 runs with the standard Class 15 bobbins. Part number 2518. I did a test and it works. But my machine came with a couple of other bobbins. Probably part number 40264. So they both work, kind of. Being somewhat practical, let's start by winding a bobbin. The spool holding the thread sits on this pin on the bottom plate. Pass the thread right and under this wheel and then up. Pull it through the hole on your empty bobbin and slide it over this knob. Press the unit towards the balance wheel. The rubber wheel should make contact with the balance wheel. When you turn this clutch plate a quarter turn to your left, you can wind without the needle moving. Now start winding by pressing the foot pedal or turning the hand crank. When the bobbin is full, this metal clip will disengage the unit, but you can flip the switch manually too when you think you're done. Don't forget to tighten the clutch plate on the rear, a quarter turn to your right. Hold the bobbin case in your left hand and the winded bobbin in your right hand. The thread should travel towards you, counterclockwise. Put it in and hold it tight with a firm grip. Pull the thread through the groove and underneath the lower tension spring until the thread runs more freely. Now put it back into the race. It has to snap into place. We need to thread the machine in order to sew again. The thread spool sits on top. Guide it to the left to this first hook, then down and underneath the upper tension assembly. Let the thread sit between the discs. It is vital to catch the spring like this. Then up to the thread take-up arm and through the hole from right to left. Down, snap the thread behind the two hooks. The third and final hook is just above the needle. And finally through the Class 15 needle from right to left. And when you have a 191K or 191EU, you have to thread it from left to right. The last phase is to pick up the bottom thread. Lift the foot. Now hold the upper thread and move the balance wheel for a full rotation. The upper thread will catch the lower thread. And now you're good to go. Some additional options and things you might want to know. On the pillar you find the stitch length regulator. The lower half is the stitch length for normal sewing. The lower you set the handle, the wider the stitch length. To only 6 stitches per inch, or is it per centimeter? Near the middle is the tightest stitch up to 30 stitches. The upper half is the same as the lower half, only for reverse. Near the middle is the reverse with a tight stitch length, and up is reverse in a wider mode. The knob on the left limits the movement of the handle we just talked about. By doing so you can switch from the same stitch length but in reverse and back again. There's also a handle to lower the feed dogs. Some of the older Singer sewing machines had the ability to drop the feed dogs too. For instance, the Singer 15K88 had a screw underneath the bed. Our Singer 191 has a knob on top of the bed. Turn it to the 3 o'clock position to lower the feed dogs. With the feed dogs lowered, you can do some free moving work. A hand crank machine is not ideal. I think you're better off with a motor. Changing from a hand crank to a bolt-on motor is easy since many Singers have this boss mount. The 9 o'clock position is for normal sewing. Last thing I want to address, you might want to maintain your machine. Use sewing machine oil and no WD-40. Remove the faceplate of the machine. Apply oil to everything that moves. The same goes for the inspection plate on the rear. And underneath your Singer 191. Of course, you don't forget the oil holes on the machine itself. Applying sewing machine oil is essential for a smooth running sewing machine. And while you're at it, get a brush and wipe down the race underneath. You only need to flip these clamps down and fold the outer ring down. Remove the half moon shaped race section and clean it with a brush. You might want to give it some oil. Did I say want? You need to oil it. Tuck the race section back again, fold the outer ring up and lock the clamps back to the original position. And by now I have covered everything I wanted to share with you. Enjoy your machine. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is a keeper.